gentlemen, we just have to put our phones on silent so that it's not interfering with the proceedings.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Sanbonani Dumelam. Welcome to the great University of Johannesburg. Professor Mashinini, the Acting Executive Dean, Faculty of Engineering and the Built Environment. Professor Elizabeth Makhatha, our inductee. I'm quite excited actually about this. Professor Antoine Mulaba, who's the respondent and also a professor of hydrometallurgy and the director of the Mineral Processing and Technology Research Center here at the University of Johannesburg. Senior leaders of the university, members of Senate present. I see Professor Timane, who's here, who's a member of Senate and also the Executive Dean of the Faculty of Health Sciences. Welcome, Prof. And other academics present, and I've seen quite a number of them here. I see my good friend there, Professor Sitole, who's sitting over there. I also saw the Vice Dean present here. Oh yeah, he's sitting there hiding. Welcome, distinguished guests. Students, and I was asking Professor Makhatha, do you have family members here? And she proudly told me, I have my husband here. I wish my wife could say that about me. Welcome, sir, and I know that she has her sisters here, the three sisters, including the two sisters-in-law. Welcome, and she has also her two boys here. Welcome to the great University of Johannesburg. I hope you'll be students here very soon. It's not easy to get to UJ, I'm afraid, but I have faith. It's partly because of people like your mom who make it difficult for people to come here. And also all of those who have joined us online, welcome to this great university. Sanbonani Huyanandi, good evening, Tobeda. It is indeed a great honor and a special privilege for me to welcome you to the Professorial Inaugural Lecture of Professor Mamuoho Elizabeth Makhatha. Professor, congratulations. As I do so, I wish to express a warm welcome to her loved ones. I've already mentioned the husband, the sisters, and the sons, special guests, and colleagues. This is indeed a proud and joyful and yet a landmark moment for all of you, for you, Prof. Makhatha, for us here at the great University of Johannesburg, for higher education in South Africa and beyond. And I can imagine, Prof, it must be a special moment to be inaugurated during this special moment for this university. As you know, we are celebrating 20 years of the great University of Johannesburg. The inauguration of professors is a public ceremony in which newly appointed professors are inducted into office by the Vice Chancellor. In this case, I'm standing for my boss, Professor Litlokwa Mpedi, who is unable to be here today. And those inductees are invited to deliver their inaugural addresses. The ceremony that we are attending this evening has its roots in the medieval university, and it serves multiple purposes. First, it is an expression of welcome and an entry for new professors joining the circle of colleagues who are already professors, and I know one of them here, Professor Mashinini. Just not too long ago, I was standing here during your induction as the professor, and I'm happy that you are here this evening. Secondly, it provides a platform for professors to display their expertise in the discipline and showcase their research. I was reading the CV of you, Prof, and I was like, we're going to be here for a very long time because it's a long CV and she has published a long list of papers. I hope we do not go through all of them, Prof. In the colonial traditions subscribed by many universities, assuming the role of the professor refers to the gown and the cap. And you will see towards the end of this, we'll do some ceremony about the gown and the cap that symbolizes the ceremony that we have this evening. Once we have listened to the inaugural address, the gown denoting the professorship will formally be assumed. Today, we gather to witness Professor Makhatha's entry into the illustrious community of scholars at our great university. We celebrate her contributions to the discipline and ultimately her impact on society. Professors provide a university with its identity, its character, academic legitimacy, and its integrity. The inaugural lecture is a rite of passage following the confirmation of the appointment of a person as a professor. And so this evening, we'll listen to Professor Elizabeth Makhatha as the gown goes to town, and in our case, this beautiful city of Johannesburg. By this, I mean that the power of the inaugural address is when the expertise is showcased beyond the corridors of the university and it reverberates throughout society. It stands out as a moment of pride for the incumbent, and in our case, Professor Makhatha, her family who are here with us today, the fellow scholars that I have recognized, the university, and ultimately the society as a whole. In the past, several philosophers and scholars have defined universities using very narrow conceptualizations. For example, they say the university is for the search for truth, for universal knowledge, and that it even serves as an instrument for the purpose of the economy, or perhaps just being utilitarian in nature. Through our work and research at UJ, I hope that we can break out of these narrow conceptualizations and reflect on the university as contributing to the public good, working towards societal impact. What is the role then of the intellectual, one of those that we are inducting this evening? Edward Said, in one of his articles, defines the role of the intellectual as follows. He argues, 1, that the intellectual is one who commands a vast knowledge of a specific discipline, and I can tell you, having gone through the CV of Professor Makhatha, that there is no doubt that she commands a vast knowledge of her discipline. He also says an intellectual is one who is rigorous in the analysis of literature in her discipline, the one who views being an intellectual as a vocation, a person who functions as a kind of public memory to recall what is forgotten or ignored, to make the connections that are otherwise hidden, and to provide alternatives for mistaken policies. This is what our inductee is, because she is an intellectual. It remains then for us as a university with a Pan-African vision to derive our mandate as intellectuals and professors. And importantly, how do we embrace the role of a professor as a disruptor while continuing to be flagship carriers of our discipline? This evening, we are going to listen to Professor Makhatha as one further step in the journey of being a professor. This is a journey which does not conclude once this lecture has been given. Notwithstanding, this inaugural lecture does create an opportunity for a self-reflective pause in her long journey of being a professor. In conclusion, I would like to invite the acting executive dean, Professor Mashinini, to introduce Professor Makhatha. I thank you, Rialeboga, Yabonga, Bayatanke, and welcome to this great university. Thank you.
Good evening, Vice Chancellor, functionary, Prof. Nulunga, members, academics, guests, and family members. Professor Makhatha, or let me rather say Professor Elizabeth Momoho Makhatha, completed her first degree, Bachelor of Science in Chemistry, with the then University of the North, Kwakwa campus, now known as University of Limpopo. She further studied Bachelor of Honors in Chemistry and Masters of Science with the University of Free State. During her studies, Professor Makhatha was appointed as a research assistant in polymer laboratory. The year she was completing her master, she joined in industry on a permanent basis as a research and development chemist at Ballowworld Plascom Research Center located in Polymer Science Building at Stellenbosch University. Her studies involve ensuring that Plascom research and development efforts were into clean coatings. Professor Makhatha joined the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, CSIR, in Pretoria in 2007. After settling in industry, she registered her Doctor of Philosophy in Polymer Science with the University of Free State and completed in 2009. She completed all her undergraduate and postgraduate degrees in record time. In 2010, Professor Makhatha joined the University of Johannesburg as a senior lecturer to manage analytical and word laboratory, teaching and supervising, conducting individual research as well. Professor Makhatha transitioned from research and development, focusing environment, to teaching and supervision, research and innovation. She supervised 24 students and 24 master students and 5 doctoral students to completion. She has published articles in peer-reviewed journals and has presented in national and international conferences. To date, she has published more than 112 documents that are listed on Scopus. Her H-index, as we speak, on Scopus is 17. Amongst her research outputs, she has registered 2 patents. And she's in collaboration with the University of Lesotho. Prof. Makhatha's research interests are in chemistry of composite materials, degradation and thermal stability, microstructure, phase transformation, crystallinity, and solidification of materials. She plays a role as an external examiner for postgraduate students from other institutions nationally and internationally. She also partakes in reviewing of journal papers from other journals, a panel reviewer from our own National Research Foundation or Research Fund. From 2017, Prof. Makhatha's career path took a management and leadership direction where she served as the head of the department for metallurgy department until 2023, December. She has successfully led the department to complete accreditation with the Engineering Council of South Africa. In these 7 years of leadership, Prof. Makhatha served in several committees at the university, of which she had an opportunity to lead various groups and student groups from also different universities. She has also led or partake in the university U21 through the various challenges. As an active faculty of higher degrees committee or faculties or faculty member, she has also presented an opportunity to serve as a faculty representative in Senate. Prof. Makhatha served Faculty of Engineering as chairperson of Ethics Committee, served as a metal casting technology station board member, as well as management committee member. In her early years of HOD, she has few opportunities to serve as Vice Dean Teaching and Learning. Prof. Makhatha served as a chairperson of Tutuka research grants for the National Research Fund. Finally, with years of experience in industry, mentoring student involvement in community and leadership, Prof. Makhatha is a registered professional natural scientist in material science. She's C2 rated professor with NRF and serves as currently as a full professor in the Department of Metallurgy. Welcome, Prof.
Vice Chancellor Functionary, Professor Angelunga, Acting Executive Dean, Professor Mashinini, Executive Dean from Health Sciences and more like a sister, Professor Eniti Mani. I see you, even you sitting at the back. Other members of MEC committee, if they are here, the respondent, Emeritus Professor Mulava, my boss, Professor Neta, who is heading the Department of Metallurgy just after me, the HODs and HOS who are online or who are here, and the vice deans, and everyone who is here, my family, my friends, thank you very much. I'm immensely grateful and I feel so much honored. I feel so much privileged for this opportunity. I never thought that something so good can put nerves to a person. However, as I stand here, I thought I would be reading, but when I see everyone else, I'm thinking I will start rather with my acknowledgement. First, I want to dedicate this journey to my departed parents. Am I not visible, audible? Just a bit. I might get too excited and shout. Right now, I'm trying to control the nerves, and besides controlling the nerves, I'm actually a stammering person, and I chose the respondent who is stammering. So yeah, I might be a little bit slow controlling the nerves and controlling the stammering. So first of all, I'm dedicating this journey to my departed parents, Ntate Nkupi le Mme Malerato Maloka, who gave me the brains to dream and to see that the dreams are realized. When I acknowledged everyone before the work, I want you to enjoy the food after you listen to the technicality of my journey and everything that I do. I know that it might not make sense, but when I do these acknowledgements, first of all, I want to thank God Almighty who made this journey possible for me. It was not easy at all. I wouldn't have done it. To my husband who has seen me through the journey, he has seen the ups and downs, the sad and the good moments when I cry, when I am happy. The acknowledgements or the dedications are so much boundless. As for my kids, the boys, they were young. I cannot say that they were supporting me, but their little smiles when they were young, those smiles kept me going. And as they grow to be teenagers that we are seeing now, at least they are at the level of asking, Mama, how was your day? So to you, Lesedi and Letotlo, I thank you so much. I know that you may not have understood everything or comprehend everything that I had gone through, but you and your father, at least you made me to look forward to come home when research was not adding up. We may sometimes think that it's only when you are ahead, but even the research that you had hoped for, if it doesn't go on the way you had anticipated, you go stressed and you need the family. So to my sisters and brothers, I'm immensely grateful. I thank you for believing in me throughout the journey. Even when the road was so much difficult, my siblings thought, she can do it. Thank you for that. I'm particularly grateful to my mentors throughout my career. One of them is Professor Timani and others who are online. Their insights on what it means to belong, what it means to do research, what it means to lead. This improved my understanding of it's a journey. Take it as it comes. Thank you for the time and effort you invested in mentoring me. To my colleagues at Faculty of Engineering, students, undergraduate and postgraduate, postdoctoral fellows, thank you so much for the experience we shared. I've learned a lot from you. You might have not noticed. Some lessons I wouldn't have learned if you were not part of my career journey. To my colleagues from other faculties, CSIR and MINTEC, I would like to sincerely thank you for always being there, for support, encouragement, collaborations, more so for being my cheerleader and saying you can do it, Elizabeth. For all my friends who are far and in this room, I thank you for staying incredible to me over the years. Your moral support made a difference on how I show kindness and empathy to others. Some of them are here. They just surprised me. I'm so much happy. From University of the North. Today we meet as lecturers. Thank you so much, sisters. I'm forever grateful to the visionary leaders, the leaders who believed in me and encouraged me to join UJ Women Leadership Program. Their undying support fueled me to lead the department with passion towards successful EXA accreditation. The leadership and mentoring have been instrumental to my personal and my professional growth. To everyone, I want to say thank you very much for being here and hear me sharing my story and share the great moments with me tonight. I know that when I share the story or the research, it might not necessarily be sensible to you, but the fact that you are here is what counts the most. And you will see that the Vice Chancellor when he was mentioning, and the Executive Dean, functionary, that I have published. This is the snippet of what I have done. It's not everything. If I were to share everything with you, of 112 documents, we are going to sleep here. Believe you me. This is the presentation outline of my speech. I will share a little bit of my biography. I thought that biography will just keep me calm, but I believe now when I'm standing here, I am going to share, and just you looking at me, it gives me so much peace. I'm so much grateful. I'm forever grateful. So with this outline, the research and scholarly achievement, the research contributions and focus, materials and applications, sustainable future, partnerships and collaborations. This is the outline. I'm giving so much short time, and I thought it's a little time, but I don't necessarily talk much. So I'll finish before time, but as I'm standing here, I'm so much excited that I believe this time might not be enough, but I'll try my best not to bore you. I will try to keep it short and very sweet for you to remember it forever. Where do I come from? This is Mamo Oho, Elizabeth, from Maloka's family, and I got married to Makhatha. And I come from Free State, the East, the beautiful Kwakwa, where the sons, people are saying, they gave the name to say it's whiter than white. So you'll hear us saying Kwakwa. It's not Kwakwa, it's Kwakwa, meaning Kwakwa, meaning it's white. So yes, if you look at this mountain, it's in winter, it's so much beautiful. You can only see it in Free State. I mean, so when it's summer, it's also so much green that you will enjoy the Eastern Free State. Why did I struggle to say Eastern Free State? But you do understand. So I went to Korong Senior Secondary School. That's where I did my matric in 1997. The slogan of this school gave me motivation to work hard. And the slogan means, it says, Nyolohela Korong, that is Sesotho. But the direct translation, it says, rise to the peak or rise to the top. So when I looked at that, as I was doing matric, I was like, I'm gonna be on that peak. I didn't know that peak is me standing in front of you and sharing my story. So, but what I can tell you is, as I liked the slogan when I'm doing matric and be motivated and be dreaming big, I didn't know that to get to the peak, I have to start from the beginning and climb all of the big stones in the mountainous place, wherever it is, even in the career. On the same year, my mother passed. That's when now the difficulty started. And then 1998, I was a street vendor, selling some vegetables. 1999, I was graced with the bursary, and I got to University of the North. At that time, the branch in Kwakwa was called University of Limpopo. It was then University of the North. Now it's the University of the Free State. In 2000, when I'm about to go to the second year, I was so much excited. I went home looking to come back. I found a job as an assistant at the university. My father passed. So that peak at the mountain, it became far and far. But believe you me, you can see it's this far where I am standing now. So then I completed my BSc, and 2002 I registered my honors with University of Free State, which was transitioning now from the North to University of Free State, and registered my master's. There's a saying that I like to say in Sesotho, that I was looking for a job with a stick and a torch. It's a joke when you listen to it in Sesotho. So I was looking for a job because parents were not there. 2003, when I was doing my master's, then I completed, and before I completed, I found a job. And then 2007, I finished I started my PhD. That is my journey, the background at the beginning. So professionally, I then joined the university at the early ages. I say professionally because I had to work and report to someone. And in 2003, I went to join Balloweld. 2007, I joined CSIR. 2010, I joined University of Johannesburg as a senior lecturer. And from 2010 to 2016, I was just a senior lecturer, and I was appointed as the head of department from 2017 to 2023 as the executive dean functionary, Professor Mashinini has said, and I got to be promoted 2018 to associate professor. Then in 2023, I was promoted to the full professor, hence you are here and sharing the journey with me. So, as my topic was saying that we're going to shape it's shaping the sustainable future with composite materials. We do research and we have research metrics where when you apply for promotions, they look at whether you are recognized internationally, whether the webs that are looking at the academics, they recognize you, like a Google Scholar, where they will check how many documents you have published, and the H-index, and also the Scopus, where I have published 112 documents, which are cited 1,188. The citation is there, as you can see, and the H-index of 17. This is just a summary of my achievement, where I supervised 24 students, master student, 5 doctoral students. One of them has just been confirmed recently, hence it is 5. I hosted 2 postdoctoral research fellows. One of them is here, and the other is online. I really appreciate that. And I published over 70 journal articles, 5 book chapters, 40 peer-reviewed conference proceedings, and 2 patents. The 2 patents is one of the things that I didn't plan for, but the research, when it's extremely well, it can be patented. So from the Scopus, you can see what of the documents that I have published, what are they covering, which topics are they covering, even if you are not intentionally addressing the issues in that area. Material science is taking a high percentage on the work that I have published. Mechanical engineering, I'm not a mechanical engineer, but what we do, because we collaborate, people who are from mechanical engineering will be also featuring in the documents that we do for whatever application. Mechanics of materials, corrosion inhibitions, chemistry of materials, and others. Now I'll be talking about the research work, and I might get a little bit technical. I know it became a little bit challenging for me to think that the audience that is listening to me is not necessarily the scientists and engineers, not all of them. And to explain the concept to everyone, you have to try your means, by all means, that everyone is understanding what you're talking about. So, what is material science? As you heard, that I'm registered professional lecturer and scientist in material science. Material science is a very interesting field of study because it analyzes the properties of the structure of materials. You discover, you design even new materials under the material science. So we also say that it encompasses the chemistry, as you can see here in the picture, the chemistry, the engineering, the physics, and mathematics. In that way, we say it's multidisciplinary. However, with material science, in these days where we're talking about advanced materials, we talk about the smart materials, which can be used anywhere else, not in the laboratory. We are saying that they are interdisciplinary. By saying it's interdisciplinary, it means that we tap into technologies. As a chemist, we have to produce something that taps into the technology that you are using. We tap into the economy, the biology, the ecology. That's why we say it's interdisciplinary. So the material science, it has different types of materials which can be classified as metals, alloys, ceramics, polymers. I put in the brackets and say plastics. It's not all polymers which are just plastics. You will see in the later slides. Semiconductors, composite materials. I'm circling the composite materials because this is where we're going to focus on to see how we're going to sustain the future with these materials. So what is fascinating about materials, it's their structure. What you see on the screen here, I'm trying to make an example for everyone just to bring it home. I played with wires and making cars with my brothers. And when you have a wire in your hand and making a car or making whatever, this one is a pure copper that you see on the screen. When you bend this wire or the copper repeatedly, as you bend it, it's going to become brittle and it breaks. So when it breaks, the electrical resistivity will increase as we bend it. However, as you look at whatever that has been broken, no composition of that material would have changed. What then had changed for the wire to be broken? It means that there is a chemical makeup of that material that has changed. I have underlined this because this is where the heart of my talk is. If you don't understand the chemical structure of the materials, then it's not easy for us to come up with new materials. You can be an engineer and tell me that I'm a chemist, I don't belong. But the fact of the matter is, chemical makeup of materials, they matter so much. Let's see. So once it's broken and you observe it, it's still the same. But what has changed? That change is microscopical scale. Then we call it the microstructure. Hence, I say, material structure is very important. As I've indicated in the previous structure, that we can group them and say polymers, ceramics. As you can see for polymers, this green is H, carbon, oxygen, and here we have the metals, which are circled in red, and then here we have the ceramics. So when we talk about the microstructure, once we understand that, it means we can come up with a way to make the smart material or advanced material, because we understand the chemical makeup of each of the materials which we are going to put together. Putting together, I'm referring to the composites. So composites can either be two polymers, they can be polymer and ceramic, polymer and metals, depending on what you're intending to do. So when we look at this tetrahedron structure, here at the bottom, it says macrostructure. The triangle here at the bottom, it shows what is more important when you want to perform or to create or design a new material. The macrostructure, as I said, the synthesis and processing of particular materials which you are going to use. The composition is also important. Once all this is suiting what you want to create later on, then it's easy for you to work on different properties and ensure that the performance of whatever the material that you might have prepared is at the higher level. Either you're saving the manufacturing or you're saving the cost of the materials which you are using to prepare one composite which you have prepared. So we spoke about the advanced composite materials. What do we look at that when we refer to this advanced? They must be strong. We have steel is strong. We have each individual materials on their own. But when we talk about advanced, we talk about materials which will have a combined properties and which will serve a better purpose than, for example, if it is steel alone. So that is the advanced composite material. It depends on what you want to do. They will just be strong, lightweight, and resistant. Hence, we are here and do research. And for smart materials, they may have a functional element to sense and respond to external stimuli like temperature, pressure. For instance, for a smart material, if it is somewhere there, it must sense when there is gas in this area. That is what we call smart. So, as I mentioned in the triangle, that macrostructure, the processing and the composition is very important. You can choose which one you want to use when you prepare, depending on what your research focus in or what the application you want to prepare, what you want to prepare is for that material for. So I will speak about two in this case, but there's many. The first one here, where you see a beaker and a petri dish, that's where now you prepare a polymer. You dissolve the polymer either in the solvent, and then you put it in the petri dish, and you're putting it in the petri dish, you call it casting. You'll hear people saying, we cast the sample. The metals, they do cast as well, as the polymers, they are also casted. In this process, when you prepare a composite that is filled with a fiber, and you want the fiber to be aligned in a certain way, because you might have done it before differently, then you put it, align it in the petri dish, you pour your solution in here, and you have your biopolymer. But for biomedical materials, you're obviously not going to put the filler. On this side, this is where now you melt mix your polymers in the extruder. There's also temperature. I spoke about the processing. There's a temperature here. If you take two polymers which are different and you want to prepare a composite material, you must be cognizant of, we always are, of the properties of each of them. If one is melting as 90, the other is melting at 100, so you can't go with the temperature of 100, because you're going to destroy the good properties which you might have from one of your materials. So it's important to consider the processing. I'm explaining it so that you see as we prepare our polymers. I just thought I should make an example with one of the known companies, Boeing 787. Their primary innovation is extensive use of composite materials. Previously, they used aluminum, which was meeting the requirement. It was so much strong, and as time goes, because they are innovative, they then made the carbon fiber reinforced plastics to create or to come up with the parts for the flights, for the planes that you see here. The aluminum is reduced to 20%. That shows that composites are shaping the future. Then the composites are contributing 50% of the flight that you see. They are very lightweight, so we cannot go wrong. Medically as well, we are coming with biomedical polymers. The polymer composites can be either from the materials as I indicated. However, I thought I should share a slide where we say these are plastics, these are polyesters, and the wool, and you might not necessarily think that they are polymers. But once you want to make something out of the properties of a wool, you want to create clothes, then you will remember that it's a polymer, and then you come up with something good out of it. The biodegradable materials. These biodegradable materials are taking the front seat now, the lead, because inherently they have the ability to break down simpler under microorganisms such bacteria, fungi, algae in the environment, which it's not prepared for. So if we use the biodegradable materials, it means it won't stay long forever on certain environments. So we're striving to do our research and make sure that the biodegradable, we are going green with these biodegradable materials. Here I'm showing you the applications that the polymers can be used for cars, and they are actually used for different, and the construction, civil engineering, the military, the aerospace, as I've indicated earlier, the packaging, all the containers that you do, the ones that are not metals, and then the gas sensing. Now I'm going to share the work that we have done by the applications. With the chemical makeup, which I explained the macrostructure, I will start slowly explaining what is happening with this material, and then later on you will see what we have tested to say it's for packaging. For this work, we focus on packaging. Small plastics or containers that you use in the house, they are all polymers. However, we want to move away from the polymers that are normally used and get to the polymers which, when they are thrown out there, they can decompose. Maybe when it's winter, depending on where this polymer that we are working on, it will suit well. On this one, we use the polybutylene succinate and we also used a modifier. We followed the melt mixing process, as I indicated, and we have the polybutylene structure here. We have the silicate, which is the synthetic fluorine mica, which is the nanoparticle. It has the silicates. So I'll be talking about the silicates more when I explain what has changed in the chains of the polymer. If you look at this chain here, it's just a straight chain. Depending on what the polymer that we use as we go, when I talk about the chain of the polymer, I will be talking about the structure like this. There's many of these which might lie on top of each other, and that changes with the processing and with the nanomaterials that you are putting in that, in whatever polymer matrix that you are using. The molecular structure of the surfactant. The surfactant was used to ensure that there is compatibility between the polymer, polybutylene succinate in this case, the one that we have used. So, because we are melt mixing, we first looked at the gel permeation chromatography. The purpose for gel permeation chromatography is to ensure that at the end, when we get excited of the properties that we have found, that we are not misled by anything that might have gone wrong when we were preparing the sample. Because something might go wrong. As you receive the polymer, you might say that the melt temperature is 90, and when you process too close to the melting temperature of that particular material, then you kill your material. At the end, the properties that comes are not the properties that you expected. So we have done the gel permeation to look at that. There's no degradation in the melt mixing of polybutylene and nanomaterial that we have added into the poly. I know this will be a little bit too technical, but here is what I will explain in a simple way, which I hope you will understand. We use the XRD and the TEM, transmission electron microscopy. With the XRD, because we have mixed the polybutylene and the nanomaterial, when we use XRD, we want to see the silicate layers where they are. XRD will give you different planes, which is 001, 002, 003, and depending on the material, you will see where your material is, and this will help you later on to see that whether your nanomaterials, they are well dispersed in your polymer or not. The first three graphs here are of the 001 peak, and this is now where we added the red one is 3%. You can see here, there's 3%, 6%, 9% into the 9%. These 3, 6, 9 are the percentages of the nanomaterial which we have added into the polymer to see the improvement. The idea is to say, adding 3, 6, 9, let's see where we're going to get the good properties for us to suggest to the industry or to whoever that might have interest. So the changes here we are seeing, but with the 3%, if you look at the XRD graph here, the first graphs on other materials, the peaks are very much pronounced. They are visible to say we are aware that there is silicates in the polymer, but the 3% might not be enough to reflect at the XRD angles at that lower percentage. So to be sure, we go further and say, what else can confirm or what else can tell us a different story about the 3% that is silent? So we went to TEM and we used the 200 nanometer. And for the 3%, it's contradicting what we are seeing on the XRD in the sense that we can see that 3% is in the sample. It's visible, as you can see the light patches here. The cross-sectional areas are the black ones. I'm focusing on the 3% because it was silent in the XRD. However, with this observation here of the 3%, you go further and say, let me increase the length then and see if it is bigger, whether the 3% is indeed as dispersed in the polymer. Then that is true, 3%, 6%, and 9%. We observe that there is a dispersion of our material in there. The same experiment, we go further to say, let us use the DSC. DSC being a differential scanning calorimetry. The principle of using the DSC, you might not have seen it, but you will understand as I explain it, is where you put your sample. Your sample is as small as a button here on your collars, that small. If it's well mixed, which we try our best to make sure that it's well mixed, it's homogeneous, so that everything that you're going to heat with the temperature is going to show you how the polymer will be performing at a certain temperature. The idea is to check with different temperatures what will happen to that chemical makeup which I was telling you about earlier. So what happens here is we heat the polymer and its nanocomposites 3%, 6% at the rate of 20%. And we observe that there's endothermic peaks 1, 2, and 3. When we observe this, it already tells us that there's melting, there's recrystallization, there's also remelting of that polymer. It can only tell you that if it melts and recrystallize and melt again, it means there's particles which are small, which are melting at the lower temperatures. And as you heat, the temperature still increasing, it can recrystallize and form a bigger crystal and melt and have a bigger crystal that melt at higher temperature. That is the indication. It tells us about the story of the crystal material. The polybutylene succinate is a semi-crystalline. Semi-crystalline means that they're small crystals. Also, the material is crystallized, and it also has some sections of amorphous. The chains which I was showing you and saying the chemical makeup or the chain of the polymer, that chain, when we have a polymer which is crystalline, all those chains, they are packing on each other, stacking on each other to form a nice crystal. When you heat it takes longer, but if it's amorphous and it's not of the good crystals, it will need only a small temperature to make it melt. So to confirm the phenomenon of heating recrystallization end, it means that we have to do the heating at different rates to observe this phenomenon, which confirms that the heating recrystallization and remelting is in that. With this one, you might not necessarily understand much, but it's the reversible where you're taking what we are talking about as heating and recrystallization and remelting to remove the non-reversible and reversible and get the total, which is in between. That further confirms the concept that the phenomena we're talking about of the crystallization, recrystallization of our material. Then we go further and do the cooling. The cooling is just to confirm again, because the first part we were talking about is the heating at 20, also the heating at different rates, and here we are now confirming with the cooling that the recrystallization, the aligning of the polymer chains actually does happen when you cool at different rates. Is there a coherence between the story that we are telling from the heating and the story that we are telling in the cooling? Yes, there is. Further to that, this material, when you take it out, if it's the material for application where it's going to be stretched or pressed, we do the dynamic mechanical analysis and the tensile stress to test with the dynamic mechanical properties, the mechanical properties, even the tensile stress of the same material. Then we go further and check the temperature as well. The gel permeation chromatography, which I spoke about, now we're going to see when we take our sample into the thermogravimetric analyzer, whether the sample is going to degrade is degraded or it's going to behave in a way that we think it might. Adding the fillers, we can see that under nitrogen, the one that has 9%, which is 9% of the filler, it does not really change much in terms of the properties. What does it mean? It means that the nanomaterial which is in the polymer, it does no longer The 3% and 6% might have improved the properties to the level that when you add more, you can no longer achieve any of the properties to increase in that. We do it under different environment so that we understand the influence is not of the nitrogen outside or the environment out of the equipment. That presentation was for the packaging of the material, and the polymer was PBS. The PES is for biomedical applications, but with this, I'm not going through all the process, as you might have learned now, understood that when I talk about the chains, the crystallinity, the thermal, what have we done there? The PES for biomedical application is one of the PES, polyethylene succinate, is one of the interesting biodegradable polymer, which can be used for the delivery of the drug. The pills, the pill that we use, it's coated often. That material that is used to coat the polymer, or the pill that you have that has a powder inside, that material that is outside, it's called a polymer. So the polymers that we use for biomedical, it must be a polymer which, when you swallow, it goes and it gets destroyed by the acid in the stomach, by everything that is in the stomach. So this is the polymer which we have used for that purpose. This is where we have looked at the term, and we looked at how it behaves when we heat it, and differently, because it's for biomedical, we used at the spherulites. We looked at the spherulites of this polymer because it's different from the other polymer. So we used at the polarized optical microscope at different temperatures. We took a polymer at 60 and 50 and 40, and the nanocomposite the same way to check the behaviors. This is now for biomedical. Leaving the biomedical, coming to the construction, I'm still talking about the polymers. Then with this one, we took the unsaturated polyester, and we filled it with the silver nanoparticles, and we followed the casting method. With this, the idea was to look at the advanced chemical and thermal stability of the construction sector through the unsaturated polymer. So what we have done is to check the chemical reaction between the polymer and the nano silver. The choice of equipment here is just to send the message. There's other properties which we have looked at. We have the FTIR. We have Raman, which will tell you about the chemical structure, or which will tell you about the chemical composition, what has happened when you put the two materials together. Did you increase the materials of that polymer, of that material, a composite material, when you add the filler? It's one thing that you want to see from the chemical makeup. So the conclusion on this work for construction is that chemically, we have done well. We have, it seems from FTIR and Raman that chemically we have improved the properties. However, when we look at the thermal properties, there's no improvement at all in that. This brings us back to one of the equipment that might have not been used at first to check whether there was a degradation of that chemical, of the material when the material was processed, because it might as well be degrading or be affected by other polymers, by other chemicals, as you can see the process of us preparing the composite through this process. So in this case, for this application, the success was only on chemical. However, the question was there any degradation or not? Then we have to go back and look at the gel permeation of the same material, then prepare again and start the same process. So this is the last application that I'm presenting. I might have flown with the other applications. In this case, we have noticed that artificial intelligence is now being used to solve many problems. It won't be wise for us to consider. I use modeling with other colleagues when I do composites on alloys. It would be foolish not to consider artificial intelligence for polymers as well. So in this case, then, we looked at the response surface methodology and artificial neural networks with my colleagues and in collaboration with the colleagues at mechanical engineering. So what we have done here, we considered the work that I didn't present here, where we had a fiber with a polypropylene. The adherence of the polymer and the fiber, it was not so good. We were happy with the results that the properties have improved. For that research, it was for automotive. Then we thought, when we use a fiber, what can we do? How do we increase the adhesion of these two materials? Then we used the potassium permanganate in acetone for this reason. And we considered to add the fiber and carbon nanotubes in the materials and use this modeling and see that if we use the single layer of the ANN model, whether we can increase the improvement. What I can say from this work is that we predicted the impact. We predicted the impact strength before we start with the experimental, and the conclusion of these results were that the prediction, it gave us a very short time. It helped us, the artificial intelligence now, it helped us to see that if we use this amount of fiber or carbon nanotubes, or we can actually save time if we model before we start mixing. We save time, we save materials, because all these experiments that we do, we have to repeat them to see the reproducibility of what you are saying has improved. So I'm happy that artificial intelligence is going to help many of us. It's not for all materials, and not for everything, but it's worth considering when you do your research and see what it is that can help you and shorten the time of your experiments. This is what I was actually explaining about the improvement on the materials. Are these materials sustainable? Are they good for the future? Yes. We know the 2030 agenda about the sustainable development goals. What are we saying about them? Are we contributing towards them? Are we considering them when you do our research? Those are the questions that we ask ourselves when the country or when the world is saying something needs our attention. So I would like to share with you that the work that I've done on polymer composites, on alloy composites, 12 of the documents that you have seen, they contributed, they addressed the Sustainable Development Goal 17, Partnership for the Goals. 10 of the documents, they are addressing the Sustainable Development Goal 9, which is Industry, Innovation and Infrastructure, because some of our work, like the patent as well, we are preparing the inhibition to protect the corrosion of the materials all over, trying to reduce the cost of the ones that are in the market. 8 of these documents are addressing affordable and clean energy. For this work, I have also graphene and macadamia, which I know I'm not necessarily presenting here, because we have no short time, but they are addressing this important SDG. And 6 of the documents, they are responding to consumption and production. 4 of the documents, they are addressing the Sustainable Development 6, clean water and sanitation. A lot of work is done in the Faculty of Sciences with my professor, who is here, a colleague of mine. Even if we don't set intentions to address based on what we do, but as I said, collaboration is very important, and we end up addressing all this and collaborating with other colleagues. So 4 of these documents, they are also speaking to the good health and well-being. With that, I say that we are aligning with the sustainable development. Are we able to do it if we are on our own? Are we able to reach these goals? No. Are we able to sustain the future? No. But with partnership and collaborations, this is possible. We can do it. As you have seen, the papers that we have published, the patents that we have, they wouldn't have been there if we didn't have other people who had the means. The means is not just the brains. We need equipment from others. And you might have noticed that a lot has been done, but we still have challenges like accessing even the most basic services like water. And the consumption of energy is the dominant contributor to the climate change. when we do our research, we must be also considerate of the climate. The 2030 agenda, it requires us to partner between the governments, the private sector, and the civil society. The civil society, all of what I'm talking about is where now we're impacting on the lives. We're touching people's lives with our research. We have to put the intention to ensure that we're touching people's lives through our researches. It doesn't matter which application, that if you have the thinking or the thought that in your mind, you will know that you are impacting. But if you set the intention, you will reach even more than what you would reach if you didn't set the intention. The Sustainable Development Goals can only be realized with a strong commitment to global partnership, collaborations, and cooperations, as I've been saying. With that statement, I want to say to you, ladies and gentlemen, I have collaborations with the departments in the University of Johannesburg, University of Limpopo, the organizations like MINTEC, and I know that my colleagues are listening online, CSIR, and international organizations like CSR and MINTEC in Belarus, the International University of Lesotho, Witwatersrand, University of Free State, University of Venda, the 3 universities in Nigeria, Federal University of University Lokoja, Covenant University, University of Ibadan, and University of Pretoria. I didn't mention all of them, but there's a lot that we do with other people. I just chose the few on the work that I have presented. So on that note, I would like to say thank you. To God be the glory.
So I don't know if I should use the mic or without mic. Okay, good evening, the Vice Chancellor Functionary, Senior Executive Director, University Relations, Student Affairs, and UJ Sport, Professor Bongani and Kuluga. The Executive Dean, Faculty of Engineering and the Built Environment, Professor Daniel Machao, in absentia, and represented by Professor Mashinini Madendwa. Of course, Professor Mashinini Madendwa, Vice Dean, Teaching and Learning, representing the Executive Dean of the faculty, honorable guests, families, and friends of Professor Makhatha. I'm honored to be the respondent of Professor Makhatha's Professorial Inaugural Address tonight. I saw the then Dr. Makhatha as she came for the interviews as a senior lecturer and manager of the analytical laboratories of the Department of Metallurgy here at the University of Johannesburg. With years, she progressed to the headship of the Department of Metallurgy and to the associate professorship. I then got used to calling her Professor Makhatha. Ladies and gentlemen, borrowing from the volume of the Sacred Law, we read, "Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves do not break in and steal. We are here talking of material things, physical things, composed of matters with molecules, atoms, and nucleus. This is where the knowledge of chemical bonds, oxidation states, plays a role to assure the integrity of the object fabricated, sustaining corrosion and wear. Individual materials have been synergistically employed to make composite materials, where mechanical properties, chemical properties, availability, recyclability, and cost attributes are used in their selection to produce an aesthetically acceptable object for the consumer. From the address tonight, one has appreciated a preference on polymers and polymeric materials, as natural fibers join the synthetic nano tubes and glasses to produce polymer-based or reinforced composite materials. In the view of responsibly consuming and producing objects, Professor Makhatha reminds the industry, the academia, and the community at large of the required implementation and attention to be paid to the sustainable development goals, be it for zero hunger or zero job or a lot of job creation or biodiversity protection. The development of new materials through the composite materials manufacturing has opened opportunities for new applications within a multidisciplinary approach. We saw biomaterials, aeronautic materials, automotive and construction materials explained here. Demonstrating enhanced mechanical attributes, the readily available low-cost and sustainable advanced composite materials may be used to address the local needs. Ladies and gentlemen, to this, promoting the strive to the bettermentship of the humanity, the special attention is paid to the use of local content, bamboo fibers, sugarcane baggers employed to reinforce cement or to form new materials have been used as examples. Many different analytical tools have been displayed, be it X-ray diffraction, Fourier transform infrared, TGA, or many others. We also saw simulation and the use of prediction tools like artificial neural network. In her address, materials engineering, material science, and the science of materials have been presented as applied to composite materials. Dear Professor Makhatha, you are welcome to the full professorship. Molimo ayu hoklono fati.
Now to the fun part. This is the part of this ceremony that I enjoy. I would like to invite the acting executive dean to join me as we rope Professor Makhatha. If you can come also, Prof, so that we can do the honors. Yes. So stand here in front here. The hairstyle here, what do I do? Or you just want us to stand here? Yes. So in case you didn't know, this is how a professor looks like. No, just once again, Professor Makhatha, congratulations. I mean, it is heartening, actually, I mean, to see you coming from where you come from, being inaugurated tonight as the full professor. Once again, congratulations. Now, boys, you have a mother as a professor now. Jeez, man. I can tell you, we expect a lot more from you. Congratulations, and thank you to all of you. I know it is late. Usually people are not at the university around this time unless they are writing a test the following day, and you are not writing a test. Thank you for coming, to each and every one of you. And I would like to invite you for refreshments there in the lounge. Enjoy yourself, and if we can give the newly minted professor a round of applause. Congratulations, Professor. And that brings us to the end of this ceremony, and you are welcome to join us there. Thank you very much.